Because you took advantage, because you cheated on me. Do you want me to kill you standing up or sitting down? After 4 years of marriage, was I the last one to see? You denied my love for you and rejected my crown. I still got a deep feeling of tenderness for you, but giving you the bullet of my gun is all I can do, because you took advantage.
On the 1st of October 2018, Fred Hieltjens is shot in his living room when he tries to give a live performance for the second time in his life. See also Whirlwind in a Bottle, the B-roll biography of Fred Hieltjens by myself. I was upset, just like all the others present, but also Nadine, my wife, and of course Josiane, Fred's partner, are shocked.
It was horrible. I didn't know what happened to us. The chaos was complete. 5 shots were fired, but there was only one hit, unfortunately, right in Fred's crotch.
Fred indeed survives and ends up in a Russian hospital. The man who shot him is literally unmasked and appears to be Leo Gillings, an old friend of Fred with a John Lennon complex. Gillings gives a confused explanation of the how and the why, but is now free again. Fred does not file a complaint. His explanation is even more confused than that of his alleged murderer.
Yeah. I don't know. It was the position of the moon. And my own mistake. There was something about me. And maybe I played a bit too loud, yes.
Then I talked to Pia Limon, an old prostitute and first witness.
Ik herkende hem direct, die vieze nauwe vent. Hij probeerde vroeger altijd een gratis beurt te krijgen. En ik weet dat hem dikwijls loesje zakjes veranderen heeft gedaan.
And when Mrs. Limon told me that Leo Gillings now lives in that old cellar where Fred stayed for a while, it became clear to me, the man who tried to kill Fred acted on behalf of that slumlord of a whim Soons. Maybe Fred had forgotten to pay the house rent 15 years ago or something, but the fact is that I never liked the guy. I rushed to him and confront him with my suspicions.
I don't understand what you are talking about, and I take offense at the way you accuse me aggressively of all kinds of things that I have nothing to do with. Maybe my assistants can help you. Rajan, Sergi.
That was not my best idea, but it surely proves that Wim Soons is not completely innocent, right? I find myself in the hospital, next to Fred. He laughs at me and implores me to leave things as they are, but I can't do that and ask Nadine for advice.
I said that he should act less impulsively and think first before doing. Still, I wanted to help him, and Fred, even though the latter did not want it at all. I went looking for a private detective, and through George's Gangsloffs, an old friend of Fred, I came into contact with a certain Hugo Flintrop. I am amazed. He looks like 2 rabbit droppings like Fred, and I hope that's only the case externally. Anyway, he will take over from us now, and hopefully that will give us some peace.
Hugo Flintrop mystery is what you now hear and see. In this world of broken dreams, nothing appears to be what it seems. You can see it in his eyes, how he's hurt and why he cries, not finding any rest or peace in a life full of lost opportunities. And in a time that we are born without knowing if man will eventually survive, with the lives and absurd can make us forget our daily strife. Hence this Hugo Flintrop mystery.
What happened on Monday, October 1st, 2018 at 21:52, when there was a murder attempt on Fred Hieltjens. Fred Hieltjens, a man whose death could have changed the history of the world, he was shot down right before the eyes of his shocked audience. The deed is quick and bloody. 5 shots are fired, but only one strikes Skull, right in Fred's crotch. The identity of the perpetrator is known, but is he the mastermind behind the attack, or is he just a stooge of someone else? And what was his motive? Just because Fred played too loud? These things I will explore by investigating the key locations and figures. Yes, my name is Hugo Flintrop and I am a private investigator. How did that happen? Well, I was an accountant at a freight forwarding company and one day I saw the girl from the canteen throwing her cigarette in the street. I picked her up, the cigarette, not the girl, and checked the brand. Then I went to shadow her, the girl, not the cigarette. I followed her home and that was that. No Me Too situations or anything like that, no, I just thought it was exciting and from then on I knew what to do with my life. Since then I have been interested in larger issues. Oh yes, and I also like to eat a slightly boiled egg in the morning, just like Sherlock Holmes, my great example. First I'll visit the victim and his friend. Both do not make me much wiser. Fred apparently doesn't remember anything anymore, and Halland continues to accuse the former landlord. We'll see about him later. I work chronologically and question top Dr. Jan Oosterberg, the man who examined Fred after the shooting, because he happened to be in the small audience that evening.
Yeah, a painful thing. A shot straight in his head.
In his crotch, no.
What? That also, of course, yes. Although you never know with what Fred thinks. All in all it wasn't so bad. The vital parts were not hit. The bullet went straight through his left buttock. But when I examined his pockets, I found a note with a warning. I do not remember exactly what it said. Something like, I still love you, so don't kill me. When it turned out that everything was okay, I put it back.
Really? Well, yes. I have to say that a few weeks earlier I found a similar text when I wanted to put his dirty pants in the laundry. Fred said it was just a note for a new song.
And that's exactly what he is telling me right now. I leave the hospital and light a cigarette. Yes, I smoke. So what? I do not drive a car. I do not own a house and do not have children. I mix between the other addicted sick people and get talking to a certain Dorothy. Her voice sounds like a coughing city bus that mates with a smoky nightclub. She tells her story rough and hoarse.
Longkanker? Ja, nog enkele weken geven ze me. Nou ja, beter dan een vriendin van mij. Die maakte een afspraak bij een specialist. Het zou 6 weken duren voor ze op consultatie mocht. Ze is er nooit geraakt. 3 weken eerder was ze dood.
Forever lost, what you felt for me. Can't you see the pain that you're giving me? Our future to consist of violence and hate. I want you to know before it's too late. I still love you, so don't kill me.
I make an appointment with Pia Limon in a dingy coffee bar. She immediately recognized Jillings and accused him of working for a certain mistress.
Waar? Oh ja, ik bedoel de details zijn half bloot door in die kelder zit. Er doet hem alles voor. Ik denk dat ze zijn Yoko Ono is. Moet je maar mijn adres niet hebben? Voor het geval dat je ook nog iets anders wil boten informatie.
So I decide to honor Leo Jillings with a visit, and have a look around in that infamous cellar. If I must believe the stories, not much has changed. It is cold and dirty and it stinks. On the walls I see posters of John Lennon and Yoko Ono. At the back is a large mirror and a dirty mattress for 2 with filthy sheets and a brown blanket. An old television set plays without sound. Old condoms hang from a clothesline, and books, clothes and rubbish are all over the place. Also 2 white painted half chairs, and here and there white blocks of wood of different heights, used to put on a boot or an ashtray. On the table I see more ashtrays, many empty whiskey bottles and some papers. Jillings is an old man with greasy hair, who doesn't look at all like John Lennon. Apparently he was still asleep while he says he has to go to the bathroom first. I look at the papers on the table. I still love you, so don't kill me. I read on one, a song by Fred. The other appears to be the lease agreement for this dump. Jillings comes back in again.
Maar kan ik nog zeggen? Ik heb het al zo dikwijls gedaan. Ik weet niet wat mij overkwam. Ik had wat gedronken en gesnoven. Misschien daarom.
But are you not a friend of Fred?
Een vriend? Ja, natuurlijk. Als je het zo wilt noemen.
How do you know each other?
Van vroeger, in de cafés. Ik was verliefd op Dorothy. Maar toen ging hij er mee aan de haal. Ik werd zat. En later, toen het gedaan was tussen die twee, wou ze niks van me weten. Ik het heb nooit vergeven.
But I notice here that he still pays the rent for this dumb apartment.
Ja, dat is zo. Dat zijn we 15 jaar geleden al overeengekomen.
But why did you shoot him then?
Ik weet het ook niet. Misschien wou ik hem wel eren. Daarom op dezelfde manier te laten eindigen. Als schreeuwt die dood. Nee, ik zeg het. Ik weet niet wat dat mij overkwam. Het was een onweerstaanbare drang, zoals sommige advocaten dat noemen.
Jillings does not want or cannot help me. A few things are clear, however. Wimsoons did not have any motive, just like Jillings did not, which means that he acted for someone else. When I leave the building, I bump into an elderly Thai woman. "Are you Leo's girlfriend?" I ask.
My name is Sweet Fanny. Adam, when who are you?
Flintrop, Hugo Flintrop. I investigate the attack on Fred Hieltjens, who used to live here.
Oh, Fred, yes, that was a nice guy.
Do you know why Leo hates him so much?
Hate? No, he does not, but Leo is not stable, rather unstable. That the opposite, you understand. I know what you think, but he is also a cool person. Hey, I remember that around that time, a man with a bit often came to visit he, but Leo did not want to say who it was.
And suddenly she gives me a slap around my ears and runs away screaming. I hear birds whistling and see a lot of stars.
Trust no one before the world is gone. Trust no one, no one, no one.
I decide to go back to the crime scene and try to create a sort of computer simulation of the events. That largely fails. Oh well, I'll just ask Joji and then, Fred's wife.
It all went so fast and I was filming all the time. I let his friends in and gave them something to drink. Fred came on and played his song. In the end, the doorbell rang. A man with a mask came in and started shooting. I knew I had to keep on filming.
But wait, who opened the door then?
Oh, someone who was there at that moment, I presume. But wait, I think it was a man with a beard.
Together we look at the images that Jojian made before the official performance began. We do indeed discover someone with a beard. Jojian is convinced that it was him, but does not know the man. At home I make a print of his face and hurry to Pielemon. Apparently she is not alone.
Oh ja, dat is Peter Casius, de schilder. En ook nog een oude klant van mij. Die was er ook, ja. André, kom eens zing. Ken jij die nog?
Ja, de Casius. Een leuk figuur. Denk dat hem een vriend van Fred en zijn eerste vrouw was.
Peter was a friend of ours, yes. He used to hit the town with us. Look, he even gave us a work of him when we went to live together. That Ertidik is what it is called. No, I do not know where Peter is now. When I married Holland, I lost sight of him.
Of course Fred does not know either. I then decide to look for the places where he and Nadine used to hang out in the past.
Hear the battle cries on the front line. The enemy sings while drinking wine. Between the sounds of ongoing gunfire, we're ready to fight and for hire. Give us a dress and put us in bed. It's just the pain and the dirt of death. The pain and the dirt of death.
If you want to know more about the places where I've been, just email me at h.flintrop@proximus.be, and I'll send you a detailed route. Anyway, no one recognizes the man, until I buy a roll with salmon in a sandwich bar at the Conscience Square.
Ah ja, natuurlijk ken ik u. Dat is de Peter Casius, de schilder. Hij woont ergens in de Grazie-Kapelstraat, geloof ik. Maar vraag me nou niet welke nummer.
Immediately I rush over there, and start to check all the houses. I am successful at number 16.
De Peter? Ja, die woont hiernaast, op nummer 14. Maar dikwijls is hem niet thuis. Meestal zit hem in de kat. Dat huis was vroeger van Gaston en Alice. Gaston is dood en Alice zit nu in een home. Haar neef heeft een tijd bij haar gewoond en beheert nu het huis. De Fred, ja, ik heb hem ook nog een tijd gekend. Oh, dat doet me eraan denken. Hier, dat zat in mijn bus. Verkeerd gepost waarschijnlijk. Maar ik denk dat het voor Peter is.
And the woman shows me a note with the text, I still love you, so do not kill me. Always that same sentence. What does it mean? For heaven's sake.
It's just the pain and the dirt of 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 the.
That same evening I go to the cat and search for Peter Casius. It is a nice, brown cafe that looks as tired as most of its visitors. They do not have a vodka martini, so I order a scotch and soda. Casius is not there and nobody seems to know him. I go outside for a cigarette. A rather beautiful and sexy dressed woman asks if I, pretty boy, have a light for her and blows smoke in my face, after I have given it to her. Classic, I think, and we start talking. Her name is Belinda and she is a nurse, and an hour later we end up in a bed of the boutique Hotel Julian, where Madonna, Kanye West and Ellen DeGeneres once slept or did something else. Belinda turns out to have a lot of experience, and in her bag she has a lot of sex toys from the Fox City Toys brand, which help us through the night. She has to laugh with my happy socks, but, hey, I am a happy guy indeed. In the morning she wakes up first and asks me to pay €300. Nurses do not earn much, she says. I want to discuss that, but at that moment my phone rings. Hello? It is Viola Kniepelink who informs me that Peter Casius is at home. I pay and hurry to the Great Acapel Street. At first, Casius does not want to speak to me, but when I tell him that I am investigating the attack on Fred Hieltjens, he lets me in. The living room of the house seems to be his painting studio. There are thousands of cigarette butts and empty wine bottles on the floor. More or less finished paintings hang, stand and lie everywhere. Most of them are images of penises in erection. The dirty dick, I often read and I immediately think of mine. Yes, it's a smelly case. But suddenly I also see a portrait of a naked Belinda.
Ja, dat is een vriendin van mij, Belinda Adamits. Ken je haar?
No, I answer, cursing myself for so much naivety. Here and there I see some Modiglianis also, perhaps fake, and I wonder in which dirty water this guy swims even more. I ask him if he knows Leo Gillings.
De Leo? Ja, dat is ook een artist, nicht? Wij doen al eens een performance samen. Zoals verleden jaar. Toen gingen we elk op een toilet zitten. Hij om gitaar te spelen en ik om te schilderen. Het is spijtig wat gebeurd is. Ik weet ook niet wat hem overkwam toen op dat optreden van de Fred. Ik vermoed wel dat hem onder grote stress stond met dit huizenhuur van hem. Zijn oren zagen hier de teeltrout.
And why did you open the door when he rang that evening?
Tja, ik zat er dichtst bij. Zeker, ik zag dat Josiane ook bezig was met filmen in ja, waarom zou ik dat niet gedaan hebben?
And you did not have an agreement with Leo?
Ik? Maar gay, waarom ook? Ik mag hier van de Fred gratis in dit huis wonen. Toegegeven, soms doe ik al eens iets dat op het randje is, maar iemand doodschieten? Nee, dat niet. Het moet gewoon een onweerstaanbare drang geweest zijn.
And a little later, I find myself back on the street. What now? I wonder. There are connections everywhere, especially between people with a smallpox life, but no one says anything. Maybe I should take a look at that documentary that Halland made.
There's a devil crawling inside of me, trying to find his liberty. Lord and master of my heart and soul, I lost myself and all control.
I pour myself a double Nika coffee grain whiskey and go to the Frank Herman's channel on YouTube to take a look at the Whirlwind in a Bottle biography of Fred Hieltjens. It really sucks, but in episode 3 I discover something interesting.
Cindy, today director of Fuckbush City Toys, a company that produces, among other things, mega bras and delicious pricks of marzipan, remembers it like this.
Cindy Vorspels, Fred's first sweetheart and later stepmother, but also director of Fuckbush City Toys. That cannot be a coincidence. I look up some things in the online yellow pages and make an appointment. Cindy Vorspels is an older lady who has housed her business in a beautiful office on the little island. The first thing that strikes me is the painting that hangs at the reception. There clearly is a connection with Cassius.
Peter Cassius, yes, I have already bought some small works from him, like this, here, The Filthy Dick, it is called. Pretty, no?
Should that not be The Dirty Dick?
What? Oh yes, of course. Ah, you are a connoisseur. Why, do you want to be a model too, or something?
No, but I wonder if he also does other work for you?
What do you mean? No, Peter is an expert dick pic artist, but that's all.
Indeed, that is all. It is clear, she, too, does not want to say anything about the events that took place last October. Everywhere, I just keep coming up empty. It is so frustrating. That is not how I imagined this profession. Sob, how come? That I cannot do anything right, that the whole world is against me. That's how it always goes.
Thinking about how I threw my life away, staring at the Foxy's picture, a piece of gold. She was going to stay, but we always did her deep into the dirt. And it's a long way down, so give me one last kiss. She was a mother for all of us who seek love. Sometimes a horror and a piece of trash. As long as the juices flew, a star up above. She paid her good fortune with heavy cash, and it's a long way down, so give me one last kiss. Yes, it's a long way down, as she had that gift she wanted.
But then I pull myself together and decide to have a drink and then maybe call Belinda.
Well, I may not be a man, but never will I be a man. I mistake her, don't forget her, will not be nice
I should not have done so. I am €500 poor, and I hurt everywhere, especially that Tarzan dildo was too much. Oh yes, and Belinda told me that she has assisted Dr. Roosterberg when Fred Hieltjens had his vasectomy. And then, suddenly, the lucid hangover strikes me. All those links, are always referring to the same person, the spider in the web. Maybe I should focus on him and start the investigation again from there. I begin to realize that Fred Hieltjens is a complex person, but I want to know more. How did he live the weeks and months before that fateful evening? What was he doing? What was his state of mind? That is why I question the people closest to him.
Oh, he was always talking about the fact that he deserved to be famous. Actually, I did not see that much difference with the past. It is and remains a pitiful figure.
He was quickly irritated and very irritable himself, yes, and sometimes also a bit depressed. His mother had died in May, and although there had always been a bit of a struggle between them, it really got under his skin, and he imagined to be a living god. Yes, he began to wear purple robes and called me Beyoncé, his queen, but that did not surprise me. He does other weird things.
He told me that he sometimes received anonymous phone calls, in which case he answered and it remained silent on the other side. Oh yes, and according to him, there were people on the street who just accused and warned him about the end of the world.
That is correct, but those people were mostly neighbors who asked him to be more quiet and threatened to go to the police, but he just laughed.
Bullshit. I call it delusions of grandeur, exaggeration of behavior. He always thought himself to be divine and has no respect for anything or anyone.
He also said that he always had the same nightmare. It started with a big party in a fancy hotel. Outside there are thousands of venomous snakes that are kept from coming in by a gypsy woman who plays the guitar. Fred notices that he has forgotten his glasses in his room upstairs. He leaves Josie in and walks to the elevator. At that moment the gypsy is murdered and the snakes sneak into the hotel. All hell breaks loose and Fred is unable to help his wife.
It is that eternal feeling of guilt that is always haunting him, and he sometimes suffers from temporary sense bewilderment, as you know.
A few weeks earlier, we went to the supermarket. There he suddenly suffered from severe diarrhea, and yes, it was indeed too late. He was literally ashamed. "Kill me now," he shouted aloud. I will not resist. He always feared that the madness would catch up with him, and right before his performance, he also had diarrhea.
A pattern starts to take shape. What were the psychological after effects of that incident? Why did he ignore all those warnings? How could he be so unprepared for what was about to happen? Or is it an illusion to think that way, because we see Fred through the eyes of his murderer instead of taking his own point of view? And why did he decide to go public at that moment with that state of mind? It almost seems like a provocation. This becomes clear when Josine remembers something else.
He thought about death a lot, yes, and I remember now that he called Cindy one night and said to her, "I still love you, so do not kill me."
Always that same sentence that keeps coming back. For the umpteenth time I check out the recipients: Leo Gillings, Peter Casius, Cindy Vorspoels, Fred himself.
Well, what can I say? You're right. Fred asked me to organize his death. He wanted to become immortal that way, but he also feared the family's madness. Moreover, he was almost deaf and lately he struggled with his health. That way he did not want to go on. The idea of losing his self-control was unbearable. What kind of future did he have left? After all, there had to be some dignity, right? Of course I was shocked and wanted to refuse first, but then I realized that by playing along, I could keep control. He ordered me to contact some friends to carry out the murder. I urged them to especially miss, but hell, That stupid drug-addicted bastard of a Jilling shot him once.
And so my investigation comes to an end. I also speak to Fred Hieltjens, but he refuses to say anything at all and just laughs a bit sheepish all the time. It was the attempted suicide of a sick man through conspirators. He has been looking for eternal fame all his life, and it is in his death that he hopes to find it. At the same time, there is also a conscious desire for death because life always fell heavy upon him. Strategic thinking and the organization of his own suicide, therefore, seemed a good idea to him. Unfortunately, he failed, as in all his other undertakings. Nothing new under the sun. A few days after my revelations, I am sitting together with Halland, Nadine and Cindy in Fred's and Josian's living room. We have a snack and a drink and talk some more. But tell me, Fred, how did that note end up in the letterbox of Viola Kniepelinks instead of Peter Casius?
Oh, I had asked my nephew, Froghead Sedek, to put that note in the box of number 14. But yes, he surely is the cousin of his uncle, because he put it in 16.
Froghead?
Yes, that's what I always call him.
And here ends my first official investigation. I wonder what the future will bring. Will Fred Hieltjens reinvent himself and let us enjoy his unbridled creativity? Who knows? In any case, I did not find it unpleasant. I finally have a Facebook account and 2 friends, Fred Hieltjens and Halland Falkenberg, and I give it to you on a note, haha, you'll hear more from me.
I see dead lying in my bed, but facing the past is not making any progress. My eyes wet of the tears I shed. This terrible disease is leaving me powerless. Seduce and destroy, they said. Use and abuse. Give them pain and just be happy. But all I did is fuck it up and take in the fall. And it's not a matter of chance at all. Love is a rebellious bird. I'm sickening now and so hurt. The God and regret and the fucking guilt. I feel like a fool who just has guilt, 'cause I had her and lost her. Let my love flow away. Watched how she died, a mistake you won't make. Time flies and there's no going back. A man of genius is seldom ruined by someone else. Life ain't too short, just an attempt. I wanted to do well, but now I can hear the dead bells. Be cool, stay in school, they said. Rhymes and riddles. So shut up and just let it be. And I hear and bang my head against the wall. And it's not a matter of chance at all. feel like a fool who just has skill, 'cause I had a lost her. Let my love flow away. Watched how she died, a mistake you won't make. Oh, what did I do? What did I do? Enlighten me, intensify me before the last call. 'Cause it's not a matter of chance at all. And there's nothing for you to forgive